Imagine a world shrouded in darkness. 360 idols circled the house built for the one God. Daughters were buried alive, a sacrifice to misplaced shame. Tribes were locked in endless cycles of blood and revenge, with no law, no mercy, no hope. Then from the very heart of this abyss, a light emerged. This light didn't come from a powerful army, a wealthy family, or a noble lineage. It came directly from the most merciful, a man who never bowed to a stone, never uttered a lie, and whose heart was filled with compassion for all. His name was Mahamad. Peace be upon him. For centuries, ancient scriptures and prophecies had foretold his coming. His arrival was destined to shatter the age of ignorance forever and usher in an era of light, knowledge, and justice. If this story grips your soul, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications. We're just beginning this incredible journey into truth. Picture this: a vast, unforgiving desert where the sun scorches the earth by day and the cold bites deep by night. No central government, no written laws, no mercy for the weak. Tribes roam like wolves, raiding caravans, spilling blood over a single camel or a disputed well. Honor isn't earned through kindness, it's measured in revenge. If one man kills another, the victim's tribe doesn't stop until rivers of blood flow in retaliation. Vendettas last generations. Peace, rare, temporary, bought with fear. This was Arabia in the age of ignorance, Jahiliyyah. The word itself means more than ignorance. It carries the weight of arrogance, explosive rage, tribal fanaticism, and a complete blindness to anything beyond immediate survival and pride. People lived by the sword, the camel, and the idol, and at the heart of it all stood the Kaaba. The Kaaba, the very house that Abraham and Ishmael built long ago as a sanctuary for the worship of the one true God, had been corrupted beyond recognition. Surrounding it, not one idol, not 10. Historical accounts from the time describe 360 idols encircling the sacred cube. Each tribe brought its own deity. Hubal, the chief moon god, stood tall as the primary figure for the Quraysh. Al-Lat, Al-Uzza, and Manat, the so-called daughters of Allah, were revered as powerful goddesses who could intercede. People whispered to them, sacrificed animals before them, and believed these stones and statues could bring rain, victory in battle, or protection from enemies. But here's the chilling part. They admitted it. They didn't deny Allah existed. They just said, "We only worship these idols so they can bring us closer to Allah." Polytheism twisted into a desperate bargain. The pure monotheism of Abraham had been buried under layers of superstition, fear, and convenience, and the cruelty ran deeper than stone. In this society, a daughter was often seen as a curse. Why? Poverty haunted the desert. Feeding an extra mouth could mean starvation for the tribe. In worse, shame. Tribes feared that if enemies captured their daughters in raids, it would bring humiliation that no revenge could erase. So some fathers made the unthinkable choice. When a girl was born, the family might dig a pit in the sand. They would bury her alive, sometimes after she took her first breath, sometimes before. The Quran exposes this horror with raw power. And when the news of the birth of a female child is brought to any of them, his face becomes dark and he is filled with inward grief. He hides himself from the people because of the evil of that whereof he has been informed. Shall he keep her with dishonor or bury her in the earth? Certainly, evil is their decision, and later, in the day of judgment scene. And when the female infant buried alive is asked for what sin she was killed. The question hangs in eternity, unanswered in their world, but demanding justice in the next. This wasn't every tribe, every time, but it happened enough to scar the collective memory. Girls were commodities, useful for alliances through marriage, worthless if they brought burden. Sons were celebrated with feasts, daughters with silence, or worse. Social life mirrored this darkness. Alcohol flowed freely, nights of drunken poetry and boasts. Gambling consumed fortunes, usury strangled the poor. Slavery was rampant, war captives, debtors, even children sold. Women had almost no rights, no inheritance in many cases, treated as property. Tribal pride ruled everything. A man would boast of his lineage for days, insult another's ancestry, and spark a war that wiped out entire clans. Yet, in this chaos, something strange persisted: the faint memory of monotheism. Some individuals, called Hanifs, rejected idols entirely. They sought the religion of Abraham in secret. But the majority, drowned in the noise of 360 gods, endless feuds, and buried secrets. This was the world waiting for change. A world so lost it didn't even know it was lost. No prophet had come in centuries. No scripture guided the masses, just sand, blood, and stone. But then, in the midst of this abyss, a child would be born, orphaned early, no army, no wealth, no father to protect him. Yet he would never bow to those idols, never lie, never compromise. And through him, light would pierce the darkness. What if I told you that, long before Muhammad was born in the desert of Arabia, his coming was already written? Not just in vague hopes, but in the sacred books of previous nations. Not one prophecy, not two. Multiple ancient scriptures, separated by thousands of miles and centuries, pointing to the same man, a final messenger from the line of Ishmael, from the wilderness of Paran, ancient name for the region of Mecca, bearing a name that means the praised one, riding camels, surrounded by enemies yet victorious, bringing a pure law for all humanity. These weren't hidden codes only scholars could decode. They were clear enough that people of knowledge in Muhammad's own time recognized them instantly. Yet most turned away, because the truth threatened their power, their idols, their comfort. Let's walk backward through time. Let's trace the thread that connects Adam to Noah, to Abraham, to Moses, to Jesus, and finally to the one they all foretold. Around 8,000 years before the final prophet, Allah spoke directly to the first man, the first prophet, Adam. Allah taught him the names of all things, gave him knowledge of the earth, the heavens, the unseen. And in that sacred moment of creation, Allah promised something extraordinary. My children, Allah has granted me light and guidance, and from your descendants, messengers will continue to come. They will call only to the worship of Allah alone and illuminate humanity with truth. That promise never stopped. Every nation received its guide. Every darkness received its dawn. But the final dawn, the one that would never set, was still to come. Fast forward, 4,300 years before our prophet, humanity had fallen again into idolatry and corruption. Allah sent Noah, a lone voice crying in a world that mocked him for 950 years. Worship Allah alone and abandon your idols and evil ways. After me, Allah will continue sending messengers from among your descendants who will call you only to the truth. Noah's Ark saved the believers, but the message remained. Guidance would never cease until the seal arrived. Another Iqra 2,600 years before Muhammad, the world once more drowned in polytheism. Stars, sun, moon, carved images worshipped as lords. Into this abyss, Allah sent Abraham, the friend of Allah, the destroyer of idols. Abraham stood before his people and declared, "Our Lord, send among them a messenger from themselves, who will recite to them your verses, teach them the book and wisdom, and purify them. Indeed, you are the exalted in might, the wise." Quran 2:129. That prayer was not generic, it was specific. A messenger from themselves, from the descendants of Ishmael, from the Arabs. A man who would recite verses, bring a book, teach wisdom, and purify hearts. Abraham built the Kaaba with Ishmael and turned his face toward the future prophet who would restore its purpose. Now jump forward to 1,400 years before the final revelation. Egypt groans under Pharaoh's tyranny. Allah sends Moses with signs that shatter empires, and Moses tells his people something explosive. Allah will raise up for you a prophet like me from among your brothers. You must listen to him. Deuteronomy 18:18 in the Torah, echoed in Islamic understanding as referring to a prophet from the brothers of the Israelites, the Ishmaelites. From among your brothers, not from among yourselves, the children of Israel, but from their brothers, the line of Ishmael. A prophet like Moses, lawgiver, leader, miracle worker with scripture. But the clearest ancient pointer comes from the Torah itself, in a passage that still echoes today. The Lord came from Sinai and dawned from Seerah upon us. He shone forth from Mount Paran, and he came with 10,000s of holy ones. From his right hand came a fiery law for them. Deuteronomy 33:2. Sinai, the place of Moses. Seerah, associated with the region of Jesus, Edom, Jerusalem area in prophetic tradition. Mount Paran, the ancient name for the mountainous region around Mecca. And from Paran, the prophecy says, he, Allah's guidance, shines forth with 10,000s of holy ones. Remember the conquest of Mecca with 10,000 believers, and a fiery law, the Quran, clear, unchangeable, burning away falsehood. Even clearer, the book of Isaiah speaks of a new song from the desert, from the inhabitants of Kedar. Kedar so, son of Ishmael, ancestor of many Arab tribes. Let the wilderness and its cities lift up their voice, the villages that Kedar inhabits. Let them give glory to the Lord. Sing to the Lord a new song. Isaiah 42:10-12. A new song, new revelation, from the desert of Kedar. Not from Jerusalem, not from Rome, from Arabia. Now the most direct references, preserved even in non-Islamic sources and debated for centuries. In the Hindu scriptures, Atharva Veda, Kuntapa Suktas, there is mention of Narashansa, in Sanskrit, the praised man among men. He is described as coming with 60,000 enemies around him, riding camels from a desert land. In Arabic, Muhammad literally means the praised one. Coincidence or preserved prophecy? In Buddhist tradition, some texts speak of the coming of Maitreya, the merciful one, who will bring a perfect law, meditate in mountains, be born in a noble family, and whose followers will sacrifice everything for him. Enemies will be defeated. Sound familiar? And in Zoroastrian writings, when people go astray, God will send a man from Arabia with honorable companions who will overthrow the throne of Persia. These are not cherry-picked. They are threads that multiple civilizations carried, faint echoes of the same promise. All of them pointing to one moment, one man, one final messenger whose name would be praised across the earth. The stage was set. The prophecies had been spoken. The world had waited millennia. And in the city of Mecca, surrounded by 360 idols, in the year 570 CE, a child was born who would fulfill every single one. If this chapter has just lit a spark in your heart, realizing that the arrival of Prophet Muhammad was not sudden, but announced across the ages by the same God who never forgets his promise, then smash that like button right now. It helps spread this forgotten truth. Subscribe to the Islamic Story Vault, and hit the bell so you don't miss Chapter 3, where we step into the sacred night that changed everything forever, and drop in the comments. Which of these ancient prophecies hits you the hardest? Do you see the hand of Allah preserving the signs through thousands of years? I read every comment. Let's discuss. The thread continues. Stay locked in. The birth is next. In the heart of the Arabian desert, nestled among barren mountains, lay the city of Mecca. A bustling hub of trade, a crossroads of caravans, but also a city steeped in ancient traditions and idol worship. It was here, in the year 570, a year that would become known as the Year of the Elephant, that a child was born destined to change the course of history. This is the story of Muhammad, the orphaned light. His father, Abdullah, passed away before he was even born, leaving his mother, Amina, to welcome their son into the world alone. Following the custom of noble Meccan families, the infant Muhammad was sent to be raised in the desert by a Bedouin wet nurse, Halima al-Sadia. The desert air was considered healthier, and the environment was perfect for learning the purest form of the Arabic language and the resilient values of nomadic life. Life in the desert with Halima's family was simple, but filled with blessings. They believed his presence brought them good fortune. It was during this time that a profound event occurred, known as the opening of the chest. While playing with his foster brother, two figures in white appeared, gently laid him down, opened his chest, and washed his heart. This mystical experience, though startling, left him unharmed and was a sign of the divine purification for the great mission that lay ahead. At the age of 6, Muhammad returned to his mother's care in Mecca. Amina, wanting her son to connect with his paternal roots, took him on a journey to Yathrib, the city we now know as Medina. The trip was filled with joy as he met his extended family and explored the city. But on the journey back, tragedy struck again. Amina fell gravely ill and passed away, leaving young Muhammad an orphan in the truest sense of the word. He was now alone under the vast desert sky, having lost both parents. He was brought back to Mecca and placed in the loving care of his grandfather, Abd al-Muttalib, the respected chief of the Quraysh tribe. Abd al-Muttalib adored his grandson, often seating him on his own special rug by the Kaaba, a place of honor no one else dared to occupy. For 2 years, Muhammad was showered with affection and protection. But fate had another trial in store. When Muhammad was 8, his beloved grandfather also passed away. The responsibility for the young orphan now fell to his uncle, Abu Talib. Despite having a large family and modest means, Abu Talib took Muhammad in as one of his own sons, loving him deeply and providing for him tirelessly. This bond would become a cornerstone of Muhammad's life. Abu Talib was a merchant, and he soon began taking his young nephew on trading expeditions. On one such journey to Syria, when Muhammad was around 12, they encountered a Christian monk named Bahira. The monk, well versed in ancient scriptures, noticed something extraordinary about the boy. He saw signs he had read about in his books, a cloud that seemed to follow and shade him, and other marks of prophethood. Bahira urged Abu Talib to protect his nephew, warning him that this boy was destined for greatness and would have enemies. Taking the monk's words to heart, Abu Talib cut the trip short and returned to Mecca, becoming ever more protective of his charge. As a young man, Muhammad became known throughout Mecca for his impeccable character. He was called Al-Amin, the trustworthy, and Al-Sadiq, the truthful. People from all walks of life, even those who would later oppose him, entrusted him with their valuables. He worked as a shepherd, a humble profession that taught him patience, contemplation, and compassion. He would later say that all prophets had been shepherds, tending to their flocks before they were called to tend to humanity. His reputation for integrity and business acumen caught the attention of a wealthy and respected merchant widow named Khadija. Impressed by the reports of his honesty, she hired him to manage her trade caravan to Syria. He returned with profits far exceeding her expectations. But it was the glowing report from her servant, Seerah, about Muhammad's character, kindness, and wisdom during the journey that truly captured her heart. Khadija, a woman of great standing and intelligence, saw in Muhammad a partner of unparalleled virtue. Through a friend, she proposed marriage. Muhammad, then 25, accepted. She was 40 at the time. But their age difference was no barrier to a marriage built on deep love, mutual respect, and unwavering support. Their union was a sanctuary for him. Khadija was not just his wife, she was his confidant, his greatest supporter, and the first person who would believe in his divine mission. Together, they had several children, and their home was one of peace and love. Yet, as Muhammad approached his 40s, he grew more contemplative. He was troubled by the social ills of Mecca, the rampant idol worship, the injustice, the neglect of the poor and weak. He began seeking solitude, retreating to a cave on Mount Hira, just outside the city. There, he would spend days and nights in meditation, prayer, and deep reflection, seeking answers to the profound questions that weighed on his heart. It was in this cave, during the month of Ramadan, that the course of his life and the history of the world would be forever altered. An angel appeared before him, commanding him with a single word, Iqra, meaning read. This was the beginning of the revelation, the first whisper of a message that would echo across centuries. The story of Muhammad's early life is not just a tale of hardship and loss. It's a story of divine providence, of how an orphan, protected and guided through every trial, was meticulously prepared for the greatest responsibility imaginable. His character, forged in the honesty of the desert and polished by the trust of his community, became the vessel for a timeless message of peace, justice, and faith. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the early life of the Prophet Muhammad. If you found this story inspiring, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more content that explores the depths of history and faith. We'll see you in the next video. By his mid-20s, Muhammad had already earned a title that echoed through every souk and council in Mecca: Al-Amin, the utterly trustworthy. In a city where oaths were broken as easily as bread, where trade deals dissolved into lies and revenge, this man's handshake was considered better than a written contract. People, even those who bowed to Hubal and Al-Uzza, would say, "If I have a treasure I want guarded or wealth I want carried across bandit-infested routes, there is only one person I trust, Mahamad, son of Abdullah." That reputation reached the ears, and more importantly the heart, of the most respected businesswoman in all of Quraysh. Her name was Khadija bint Khuwailid. Khadija was no ordinary merchant. She inherited wealth, multiplied it through intelligence and courage, and ran caravans that traveled farther and returned richer than almost anyone else's. Twice widowed young, she turned down repeated marriage proposals from powerful chiefs and rich traders. Why? Because she saw in most men only greed masked as affection or pride disguised as protection. But the name Al-Amin kept coming back, not just from one person but from many. Travelers, partners, even competitors. They all told the same story. He never cheats, never exaggerates profit, never hides losses, never speaks harshly even when wronged. So Khadija made a calculated, yet deeply personal, decision. She sent a message. "Would you lead my caravan to Syria? I will give you double the usual commission." Muhammad accepted. But Khadija did something unusual. She sent one of her most trusted servants, Seerah, with strict instructions. Observe everything. Not just the trade, the character. The journey was long, bandits lurked, heat was merciless. Yet Seerah witnessed things he could hardly believe. When others argued over water, Muhammad quietly gave his share. When an animal stumbled, he was the first to dismount and help reload. At night, while others boasted and drank, he sat apart under the stars in contemplation. And twice, Seerah swore he saw something impossible. On the hottest hours, a cloud or shade followed only him, shielding him from the sun while others suffered. When the caravan returned, the profit was exceptional, far beyond expectation. But Seerah rushed to Khadija before speaking of money. He spoke of the man. "I have never seen anyone like him. He speaks little, but every word is weighed. He wrongs no one. Even the monks and Christian traders in Syria honored him. One of them called him by a name from their books. They said great things await him." Khadija listened in silence. Something stirred inside her, not just admiration, but recognition. She confided in her close friend Nafisa. Nafisa, bold and direct, went to Muhammad one day after prayer. "Abul Qasim," she said, "why do you not marry?" He answered simply, "I have nothing to offer." Nafisa pressed, "And if someone offered you beauty, lineage, wealth and character, would you refuse?" He asked quietly. "Who?" "Khadija." A long pause, then he said only, "And would she accept?" Nafisa smiled. "Leave that to me." Soon after, Khadija herself sent the proposal, through Nafisa, and Muhammad accepted. He was 25, she was 40, a gap that raised eyebrows in Mecca, yet no one dared mock it openly. Because both were untouchable in character, the marriage was simple, private, sacred. For the first time in his life, Muhammad had a true home, not just shelter but tranquility, understanding, partnership. Khadija did not treat him as a younger husband. She treated him as an equal, her protector, her confidant, her peace. And Allah himself would later testify to this gift. "Did he not find you an orphan and give you refuge? And he found you lost and guided you, and he found you poor and made you self-sufficient." Many scholars say this verse points directly to Khadija's role. She gave emotional and material security that allowed his heart to remain free for what was coming. Together, they had children: Qasim, Zainab, Ruqayya, Kulthum, Fatima, and later Abdullah. Losing Qasim broke both their hearts, yet it deepened their bond. Khadija became known as Mother of the Believers long before anyone used the title officially. In those quiet years of marriage, Muhammad withdrew more often. The noise of Mecca weighed heavier on him each year. He began leaving the city for days at a time. He climbed Jabal al-Nur, the mountain of light. Inside a small cave called Hira, he would stay alone, thinking, reflecting, worshipping the one he knew existed beyond the stones. Khadija never complained. She prepared food, wrapped it carefully, climbed the rugged path herself sometimes, and left provisions at the entrance without disturbing his solitude. She understood. His soul was searching for something the world could not give. He was approaching 40. The weight of centuries of prophecy, the corruption of the Kaaba, the cries of buried daughters, the groans of slaves, all seemed to press on his chest. And then, one night, everything changed forever. He was 40 years old. 15 years married to the woman who believed in him more than anyone alive. A respected merchant, a trusted arbitrator, a man whose word was gold in a city of brass promises. But inside, unrest, a growing ache. The idols around the Kaaba felt heavier every time he passed them. The poetry praising false gods rang hollow. The cruelty, the burying of daughters, the trampling of the weak, the endless cycle of revenge. It all pressed on his chest like a mountain. So he withdrew. More and more often. He climbed the steep rocky path to Hira, the Cave of Hira, a narrow slit in the mountain barely large enough for one man to sit and breathe. No comforts, no distractions, just stone, sky, and silence. In there, alone under the stars, he worshipped the one he had always known in his heart existed. The creator beyond the created, the truth beyond the lies of stone. Khadija never questioned these retreats. She prepared dates, barley bread, water. Sometimes she climbed part of the way herself to leave provisions near the entrance, then returned home without a word, giving him the solitude his soul demanded. This night was different. The 27th of Ramadan, tradition holds. The year, 610 CE. The air felt charged, thicker, expectant. Suddenly, without warning, the cave filled with light. Not firelight, not moonlight. A radiant, living presence that had no source in the physical world. Before him stood a being of pure light, immense, majestic, filling the entire space yet somehow contained. Wings that spanned horizon to horizon in an instant. The cave seemed to shrink and expand at the same time. It was Jibreel, the angel Gabriel. The same trusted spirit who carried revelation to Adam, to Noah, to Abraham, to Moses, to Jesus, peace be upon them all. Jibreel came close, pressed against him, so tightly that Mahamad felt his breath leave his body. Then the command came, clear, powerful, undeniable. Iqra, read! Mahamad, trembling, honest in his shock, answered from the depth of his soul, Ma anna bikari. I cannot read. Jibreel pressed him again, harder this time, until it felt as though his ribs would break. Iqra! Read. Again, I cannot read. A third time, even stronger, the embrace of light tightened like iron bands. Iqra! And then, in that moment of utter helplessness, the words poured forth, not from books, not from teachers, not from memory, from beyond time, from the Lord of the worlds. Read in the name of your Lord who created man from a clinging substance. Read, and your Lord is the most generous, who taught by the pen, taught man that which he knew not. The words burned into his heart like fire, yet brought a strange, unshakable peace. Then, as suddenly as he appeared, Jibreel vanished. The light receded, the cave returned to darkness. Only the echo of those words remained, ringing inside him. Muhammad, the man who never trembled before kings or caravans or drawn swords, was shaking. Fear, awe, confusion, overwhelm, all at once. He stumbled down the mountain path in the pre-dawn chill, legs unsteady, heart racing. The familiar rocks and thorns seemed alien now. The world felt different, as though the veil between seen and unseen had been torn open. He reached home, pushed open the door. His breathing was rapid, uneven. Khadija looked up from where she sat and saw immediately something had happened. She rose quickly, wrapped him in a blanket, the thick wool one she kept for cold nights, held him close until the shaking eased. Then, in a voice soft but steady, he told her everything. The light, the angel, the crushing embrace, the words that came from nowhere and everywhere. When he finished, silence hung between them. Then Khadija spoke, words that would echo through 14 centuries. By Allah, Allah will never disgrace you. You keep good relations with your kith and kin, speak the truth, help the poor and the destitute, serve your guests generously, and assist those afflicted by calamities. She knew, in her bones, that this was no illusion, no madness, no poetry born of the desert. This was wahi, revelation. She took his hand, led him to her cousin, Waraka ibn Nawfal. Waraka was old now, nearly 80, a Christian scholar who had read the Torah and the Gospel in their original tongues. He had long ago left the idols of Mecca behind. He knew the scriptures, he knew the signs of prophethood. Muhammad repeated the entire event. Waraka listened without interrupting. When the narration ended, tears filled the old man's eyes. This is Namus, the same great angel who came to Moses. This is the same law that came before. You are the prophet of this nation. Then, with sorrow in his voice, he added, I wish I were young, so I could stand by you when your people drive you out. Muhammad, still reeling, asked quietly, Will they drive me out? Waraka nodded gravely. Never has a man come with what you have come with, except that his people became his enemy. Silence again. Khadija placed her hand on her husband's shoulder. No fear in her eyes, only certainty. That night, in a tiny cave no wider than a grave, history split in two. Before, centuries of waiting, prophecies, darkness. After, the final message had begun. The seal of the prophets had received his first words. Islam, submission to the One, was being born. And the first believer, not a warrior, not a chief, not a scholar, a woman. Khadija bint Khuwaylid, the first to say, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. The public call on Mount Safa had ignited a fire the Quraysh could not contain. Mockery turned to beatings. Beatings turned to torture. Torture turned to murder. Sumayya and Yasir, the first martyrs, lay in the sand, their blood a silent accusation against the idols they refused to worship. Bilal's cries of Ahad, Ahad, still echoed in the ears of those who passed the torture grounds. The weak and the new converts had no tribal protection. Abu Talib shielded his nephew as best he could, but even he could not stop every hand raised against the believers. In the midst of this rising darkness, Allah sent relief, not by removing the hardship, but by opening a door no one expected. Revelation came, permission to leave Mecca, not to Medina yet, that Hijrah would come later, but to a land far across the sea. Abyssinia, modern-day Ethiopia, ruled by a just Christian king named Najashi, Negus Ashama ibn Abjar. The prophet gathered the believers in secret and said, If you were to go to Abyssinia, you would find a king under whom no one is wronged. It is a land of truth. Go there until Allah makes a way out for you. So began the first Hijrah in Islam, the first migration for the sake of faith. Not a mass exodus, not with banners and drums, but in small groups, slipping away by night, hiding in caravans, disguising themselves as traders or pilgrims. Among the first group, 11 men and 4 women, then a second wave, bringing the total to around 83 men and 18 or 19 women. They included Uthman ibn Affan and his wife Ruqayyah, the Prophet's daughter, Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, the Prophet's cousin, eloquent and noble, Abu Hudhayfa and his wife Bilal, finally freed from his chains by Abu Bakr, who bought and emancipated him, Ammar ibn Yasir, orphaned by the torture that killed his parents, and many others from humble backgrounds, slaves, the poor, the previously voiceless. They traveled overland to the coast, then crossed the Red Sea in small boats. A journey of weeks, dangerous waters, fear of pursuit, uncertainty about what waited on the other side. Yet they went, because staying meant death or forced apostasy. When they reached the court of Najashi, the Quraysh did not stay silent. They sent a delegation, Amr ibn Alas and Abdullah ibn Abi Rabi'ah, loaded with gifts to bribe the king into handing the Muslims back. The envoys spoke first. These people have abandoned our religion. They insult our gods. They have come to your land to cause division. Return them to us. We are their kin. We know how to deal with them. Najashi listened. Then he turned to the Muslims, represented by Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, who stepped forward with calm dignity. Ja'far spoke. "O king, we were a people of ignorance. We worshipped idols, ate dead animals, committed immorality. Then Allah sent us a messenger from among ourselves, known for his truthfulness, trustworthiness, and chastity. He called us to worship Allah alone, to speak the truth, to honor trusts, to maintain family ties, to be kind to neighbors. He forbade us from immorality, falsehood, devouring orphans' wealth, slandering chaste women. We believed in him and followed him. Our people persecuted us, tortured us, tried to force us back to idol worship. So we fled to your land, seeking refuge under your justice." Then, at Najashi's request, Ja'far recited verses from the Quran. He chose Surah Maryam, the story of Maryam and Prophet Isa. As the words flowed, tears streamed down Najashi's face. His beard became wet. His courtiers wept too. When Ja'far finished, Najashi said, "By God, this and what Jesus brought come from the same source, the same lamp." He turned to the Quraysh envoys. "Go. I will never hand them over, not even if you gave me a mountain of gold." He returned their gifts, untouched. For several years they lived in peace. Some stayed until the later Hijra to Medina. Others returned earlier. But this first Hijra proved something eternal. Islam was not bound to Mecca. Faith could survive and thrive in exile. The weak became protected. The persecuted found dignity. And the message spread beyond Arabia's sands. Yet back in Mecca, the fire burned hotter. The Quraysh grew more desperate. Abu Talib's health began to fail, and the Prophet, still calling people to Islam, faced increasing isolation. 3 years of open dawah had passed since the call from Mount Safa. The message had spread, quietly at first, then with growing ripples. More people entered Islam in secret. The believers in Abyssinia sent back word of safety and growth. But in Mecca itself, the Quraysh's hatred only deepened. They could not kill the Prophet outright. Abu Talib still stood as his shield. The Banu Hashim clan still commanded respect. So they chose a slower poison: isolation, boycott, daily torment. Then, in the 10th year of prophethood, 619 CE, the sky seemed to fall twice in quick succession. First, Abu Talib, the uncle who had raised him like a son, who had protected him through every storm, fell gravely ill. The Quraysh leaders saw their chance. They came to Abu Talib on his deathbed. "Your nephew insults our gods. Make him stop before you die, or we will make sure his life ends with yours." Abu Talib, weak, breathing labored, looked toward his nephew standing nearby. Muhammad spoke softly but firmly. "Uncle, say just one phrase, La ilaha illallah. I will intercede for you on the day of judgment." Abu Talib smiled faintly through the pain. He looked at the leaders of Quraysh, men he had known all his life, then back at his nephew. In his final moments he said, "By the religion of Abdul Muttalib, I die upon the faith of my forefathers." He passed away without uttering the Shahada. The Prophet was heartbroken. Abu Talib had never accepted Islam outwardly, yet he had shielded the message with his life for 10 long years. Now that shield was gone. The Quraysh rejoiced in whispers. "The protector is dead, now we can deal with Muhammad as we wish." But the greater blow was still to come. Only weeks, perhaps months later, Khadija bint Khuwaylid, the first believer, the rock of his life, the mother of his children, the woman who had believed when no one else did, fell ill. She had stood by him through every trial, the first terrifying revelation in the cave, the secret years of teaching, the public call and the rising hatred, the torture of their companions, the migration to Abyssinia. She had comforted him, fed him, climbed mountains to bring him food, spent her wealth to free slaves like Bilal, and never once wavered. Now, in her 60s, her body gave out. The Prophet nursed her himself, held her hand, spoke words of love and gratitude. When she passed, the home fell silent. No more gentle voice calling his name, no more wise counsel in the night, no more partner who knew his heart better than anyone. The Prophet buried her with his own hands in the Janat al-Mu'alla cemetery. He wept openly. something the companions rarely saw. Later he would say, "She believed in me when people disbelieved. She supported me with her wealth when people deprived me. Allah granted me children through her alone." He never remarried in her lifetime, a testimony to the depth of their bond. The year became known forever as Am al-Huzn, the year of sorrow. With Abu Talib gone and Khadija gone, the Quraysh felt the chains loosened. Insults turned to open threats, stones thrown at him as he prayed, garbage dumped at his door, mockery became daily routine. In desperation, hoping to find new hearts open to the message, the Prophet decided to travel to Ta'if, a beautiful city about 60 miles southeast of Mecca, known for its orchards, grapes, and cooler climate. Ruled by the tribe of Thaqif, wealthy, influential, rivals to Quraysh. He went on foot, accompanied only by Zayd ibn Haritha, his adopted son and loyal companion. He arrived in Ta'if and approached the three chief leaders of Thaqif, brothers Abdullah, Mas'ud, and Habib. He sat with them under the shade of grapevines and delivered the message clearly. "I come to you with a call from Allah. Worship Him alone. Abandon what your fathers worshipped. Accept this message, and I promise you paradise. Help me spread it, and Allah will grant you victory." Their response was brutal. One laughed mockingly. "Did Allah find no one better than you to send?" Another sneered, "If you really are a prophet, ask your Lord to send us a piece of the sky to fall on us." The third, the cruelest, said, "By Allah, don't let me see your face again." They incited the slaves and street boys. As the Prophet left the city, crowds gathered. They pelted him with stones. Zayd tried to shield him, but stones struck his blessed feet, his legs, his head. Blood flowed. He kept walking, head bowed, until they chased him out of the city gates. Exhausted, bleeding, he took refuge in a vineyard on the outskirts, sat under a tree, raised his hands, and made one of the most beautiful, heartbreaking du'as ever recorded. "O Allah, to you. I complain of my weakness, my lack of resources, and my humiliation before the people. You are the most merciful of those who show mercy. You are the Lord of the weak and my Lord. To whom will you entrust me? To a distant enemy who will show me hostility? Or to an enemy you have given authority over me? If you are not angry with me, I do not care. But your favor is greater for me. I seek refuge in the light of your face, by which all darkness is illuminated. There is no power or strength except with you." As he prayed, the owner of the vineyard, a Christian named Adas, sent his servant with grapes. Adas noticed the blood, the wounds, the dignity and suffering. He asked who this man was. When he learned it was Mahamad, the one spoken of in their scriptures, Adas fell at his feet, kissed them, and declared his faith. "Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah." In the darkest moment, after stones and rejection, Allah sent a single believer from an unexpected place. The Prophet returned to Mecca, wounded in body, but not in spirit. He entered under the protection of Mut'im ibn Adi, a respected polytheist who gave him temporary asylum. The year of sorrow had stripped him of his greatest earthly supports. But Allah was preparing something greater.